Okay, ladies and gents, welcome. And I figured for today we try to figure out where the Vikings go from here because this pretty much feels like rock bottom right now. And the takes are getting a little wild and a little hot. And I just want to make a video where we talk about the rest of the schedule, what we're going to be up against, and realistically what we could expect based on a little bit of a historical statistics and just how things feel right now as we march towards week 3 of the NFL season. Before we do that, first a little bit of news update. The Vikings have signed free agent Todd Davis to fill the void left at the linebacker position by Anthony Barr. He's a former Broncos player who did pretty well when he played with the Broncos, so he will slide probably likely into that strong side linebacker position. Troy Dye was a little bit banged up in the Colts game. He's the likely candidate to see more playing time just because he's familiar with the defense, even though it is his rookie year. He has a little bit more experience, but I think Todd Davis probably will jump him at some point in the depth chart, if not immediately. It's good to get him in this early in the week so they can get some practice in before they have to play their game on Sunday. So that is the free agent waiver wire action that has occurred today, and that was realistically going to happen. You know, there was a spot open and they had to get somebody, and I think the fact that Todd Davis was still on the market was kind of remarkable. All right, so the horrendous statistic about 0-2 teams making the playoffs from this point out is not very good. And since 2007, there have been 98 teams that have started 0-2, and only 12 have turned it around and made the playoffs. That's good enough for 12.2%. The most recent examples of this, you have to go back 2 years to 2018, was the Texans and the Seahawks. Those two teams have had much better rosters and much better talent than we do on this team right now. The argument that the offseason acquisitions, trades, and draft picks as a way to sort of do a soft rebuild on this team, that's all out the window. It is clear as day that there is not enough experience or talent on this roster to be able to be competitive in this league this year. I do not foresee this team turning things around and making the playoffs, and today we're going to assess why that is. So on the board here, on the left side, your left, my right, I have the remaining schedule. We're going to go through these sort of one by one, not take too much time on it because we don't want to dwell on what is about to be a huge disaster of a season. But I just want to sort of go over why I think they could win or lose each particular game and give you my take on that. Side note, last year it took a while for Kirk Cousins to get going, but I think this year is just completely different. And it was about week 4, week 5, he finally started to figure it out and turn on the offensive jets, if you will. I just don't foresee that happening this year, and I will explain why. So next week, we play the Titans at home. They're a 2-0 team. Very scary, talented roster. All-time head-to-head records, I decided to look up all the head-to-head records historically for the Vikings and their opponents out of the division. So when I reference that, that is what we were talking about. All-time, Vikings lead the series 9-4. Mike Vrabel is a very good head coach. This defense is light years better than what it was when he arrived. And that is largely due to the fact that guys like Harold Landry were just, knockout draft picks. Same with like A.J. Brown on the offense. I don't see how the Vikings are able to be competitive with this due to them having much better defensive line than we do in offensive line. And there exists the fact that Derrick Henry is on the other side. So if you can sort of see where I'm going with this, I'm going to say that the Titans win this game. So I'm going to do a little X right there to signal that we don't win that one. And then we'll add these up at the end when we're done. Texans, historically, we're 4-0 against them. Texans don't have a very good team either. It's better on paper than it is on the field. Deshaun Watson is a perennial Pro Bowl quarterback, one of the best in the league, but he's just surrounded with a lot of, spare parts, if you will. I think by the time that we get to this game, both teams will be winless, so this will be the battle of the 0-3s. I also believe that by this time, Deshaun Watson's skill position players aren't going to be very healthy. We already have Will Fuller with an undisclosed injury. Brandon Cooks is one hit away from having another concussion. Randall Cobb feels like he's just one of those ancient players now. So I don't, if those players were all healthy and Will Fuller was healthy, 100%, we're probably looking at some trouble. But the offensive line for the Texans isn't very good. We're going to get Danielle Hunter back in week 4. So I'm going to go ahead and pencil this in as the first win of the season for the Vikings. Next, we have the Seahawks. No way in hell. Just absolutely no way in hell. I don't even have to go over the statistics. We're 5-11 all time against Seattle. Russell Wilson is having an MVP start to a season. We don't do well when we have to travel to that place. There may even be fans in the stands by that point. Absolutely no way in hell we win that. Falcons are an interesting one. Both teams have a bad defense. Both teams are supposed to be carried by their offense. So what we've seen so far with the Falcons' first 2 games is that they have the potential to be really good. It's just that Dan Quinn exists and the defense is bad. So in this situation, I have to give this one to Atlanta because they have the better offense than we do. The fact that they can have 3 wide receivers reach 100 yards receiving in a game speaks volumes to what this team is capable of. And Matt Ryan is a way better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. So unfortunately, embarrassingly, I have to give this win to Atlanta. All right, moving on, we have 3 straight divisional games. Packers should roll us once again. No reason to think that they can't repeat what they did to us in week 1. The Lions are an interesting one. Matt Stafford, Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, DeAndre Swift, Adrian Peterson. This is probably going to be a very difficult offense to defend. Matt Patricia's defenses aren't good. Jeffrey Okudah looked pretty silly against Devontae Adams, even though, yes, that is Devontae Adams going up against a rookie cornerback, which is a position that is very difficult to transition to in the NFL. But this is tough. I want to say that we're going to win this game, and it's at home, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll give us this one. I don't feel confident in it, but it should be a win. All right, moving on to the Bears. The Bears feel like they've had our number in recent years, so I'm going to say that this is a no. I'm going to give that one to Chicago. Now, we face a very difficult stretch of home games with the Cowboys, the Panthers, and the Jaguars, and you may think, well, 2 or 3 of those games are winnable. Maybe not. The Panthers have looked like they're very committed to being aggressive. That also probably will be the week that they get Christian McCaffrey back, go figure. I'm totally skipping over the Cowboys because there is no way in hell we're winning that game unless Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, and CeeDee Lamb don't make the trip. So that's a loss. Panthers, Teddy Bridgewater comes back to Minnesota. Christian McCaffrey's probably going to be back there. DJ Moore is a very, very good receiver. Probably one of the more underrated ones in the league, or undervalued, however you want to play it. So, man, I don't want to say we lose that game, but I think we do. So I'm going to give this one to the Panthers. Jaguars. I'm pretty confident we can stop Jay Gruden's offense. That's not a check mark. That's an X. Silly me. So I'll give that win to the Vikings. Let's see. Bucks. Let's just go down the list here. Bucks, no. I don't think we can beat the Bucks. The Saints, no. And then we have 2 remaining divisional games against the Bears and the Lions. So let's say that we split with the Bears, and then by the last week, we're out of the playoffs. We just do something completely embarrassing, and we lose that game too. So we swept by the Packers, split the division games with the Lions and the Bears, for a grand total. Let's see here. So we're winless right now. So I've got 4 green checks. So that puts us at 4-12. It doesn't look good. And, just for humor's sake, here on the other side of the board, we have all of the talented players that we're going to be facing at the quarterback position and pass rush position. And if you look at these names, Tannehill, Watson, Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford twice, Mitchell Trubisky twice, that's the weakest one on the board, Dak Prescott, Teddy Bridgewater, Tom Brady, Drew Brees. This secondary against all this, we're in trouble. For the pass rushers, with this offensive line not being very good, giving up a lot of pressure on the right side specifically, the guard position right now is pretty terrible with Dakota Dozier and Drew Samia. I can't believe we hope that we get Pat Elflein back pretty soon. But Clowney, Harold Landry, J.J. Watt, Grady Jarrett, Khalil Mack 2 times, Alden Smith, DeMarcus Lawrence, Trey Flowers, Brian Burns, Shaq Barrett, Cam Jordan, Marcus Davenport. It's a murderer's row of pass rushers against an offensive line that is not very good. So, and we probably will be playing from behind, which means we won't be able to utilize Dalvin Cook very much unless we're playing with a lead or the game is at least close. So I expect a lot of negative game script where Kirk Cousins is going to have to push the ball down the field, which through 2 weeks he's proven he cannot do. And the pass protection by this offensive line hasn't been good for a number of years. So we find ourselves in a position where the strength of the offense or the strength of the team is supposed to be the running game and the defense, and those don't exist right now. So if trends continue, which they probably will, given how the team has showed up in the first 2 games, and you can even look at the defense, how the young rookie corners each had a penalty. You know, there's a reason that Jeff Gladney wasn't the starter in Week 1 because Cam Dantzler is clearly better than he is at this point. Gladney's going to need a lot of time to adjust to this league. The lone bright spot, I guess, if you can find one, would have been Justin Jefferson from the Colts game where he caught all 3 of his targets. So maybe he gets unleashed a little bit more. I think it's just a matter of time before he usurps BC Johnson on the depth chart. It's just a lot of questions and a lot of unknowns. But when you just look at the schedule from a historical standpoint, a lot of these teams that we play outside of the division is pretty close. Falcons, we lead 19-10 overall. Cowboys, we're tied head to head with them 12-12. Panthers, we are 8-6 all time against them. 5-1 against the Jags, 33-22 against the Bucks, 19-11 against the Saints. Historically, we should win a lot of these games, but this year doesn't feel like it. So I don't expect good things. And if we do end up with a 4-12 record, you're likely looking at Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. Now things could turn around. You know, the Bears could get worse. I don't anticipate any of these other teams getting very worse. You know, the Panthers game is a 50-50 shot. Like I said in the other video, the best I think you can expect is 6-10. So 4-12, 6-10. Right now, that feels like where our range is, unless things get really good, really fast. And I don't see how that's going to happen. So that is a sad approach or a sad outlook for the rest of the season. But I think it's time we come to grips with reality that the roster is not very good. And based on the Colts game and the Packers game alone, we might be cannon fodder for the rest of the season. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.